Good evening, everybody. So I am doing a special Barry beat, just solely doing the presentation of the BUUSD school board. With us in studio is Nutters and his friend. That's all that we have. So I do apologize. Might be a very boring Barry beat, but I feel that on the close to the eve of the BUUSD budget vote, which is on September 17th, I felt that it was necessary to get information out there that's from the BUUSD website directly. And you can go to buusd.org, which I just posted into the chat if you want to get the PDF. Just click on the little pop-up that automatically comes up, and you can review this yourself. So with that, I'm going to just jump right in and talk about the Barre Unified Union School District budget revote. So this is our fourth vote, as many know, and the first vote I didn't support. That was in March. Then the second vote, we reduced it, and then we reduced it again after the third vote. And now this is our fourth one, and we're hopeful that the school board and, of course, the school district is hopeful that we'll be able to pass this budget and move forward. But that being said, moving on and just give some information. So the BUUSD's vision is a rock-solid education for a lifetime of discovery. And good evening, Clayton. Our mission is to build a community of curious learners that empowers student voice and exploration through education, character development, and perseverance so our students can take on the world's greatest challenges. Ooh. Oh, well, there we go. All right, so the 2025 increases, it's $3,692,704. $3,692,704. Of that, our salary and benefits, that's 56% is salary, 28% is benefits, which brings it up to 84%. Oh man, that was pretty bad if I messed that one up. 84%, that's stuff that is built into the cake, right? We negotiated contracts, and that's what that is. And people will say, well, that's also additional positions. Those are a lot of that is, yes, ESSER funded positions that, based on my understanding, was paid for. The positions were there before the ESSER funds came in. So we're just reabsorbing them. And then there's the 12%, which is tuition to Central Vermont Career Center, and then 4%, which is supplies, equipment, building, repairs, utilities, etc. That's what the increase is. Regarding the vote history, as I stated, we've had this is our fourth vote, and the first vote, which was in March, that obviously failed. It failed significantly in Barre Town and passed in Barre City by one vote. I think it was one, it might have been two. Then the second vote, it passed more in Barre City, still failed in Barre Town, and the same thing for vote 3. And now on to vote 4. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. Something that impacts the tax rate, which I'm going to be focusing on mainly the tax rate, because that's the number that impacts folks, not the increase in the budget, it's the tax rate. Your house assessment, your tax rate is, your taxes are based on the tax rate and your house assessment. And unfortunately, with education funding, which is extremely confusing, we have CLA, which is the common level of assessment, and that fluctuates. Usually, it doesn't fluctuate as much as it does or has been, but the housing market, as folks know, is extremely crazy. And that's another confusing state formula that they try to compensate for values going up and going down. Barre Town got hit hard with the CLA because they literally just did their assessment, and it went from, I think, 115%, now it's down to 86.93. It's a huge drop. And that's not anyone's fault. That's just the way that it is. The way that the market runs in this formula that the state has produced. So that would have an impact on the actual tax rate. The comparative budget from last year, the general fund, and again, these numbers, it's the education is funding is extremely confusing. You've got the general fund, you've got the total expenditures. I want to focus, so the general fund from last year to this year, which is not the total expenditures, that is a difference of 7.4%. The tax rate is not an increase of 7.4%, but the general fund is. When you look at the total expenses, last year to this year, we're looking at a 2.1% increase. And of course, for folks that know, we did lose some of the ESSER funds. The next slide here is the education spending. Education spending is your expenses minus your revenues. And what we've got for the BUUSD, our education spending, and this is the actual amount that the tax formula is based on. Your taxes are based on the education spending, and that's going up 3.09%. And again, you can find all this information at the BUUSD.org website. Highly recommend that you go there and take a look at this and ask questions and send them to the superintendent, and she'll be able to answer them. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer them before the vote. Moving on, so as I stated, education funding is extremely confusing. This is how it's calculated. You take the total BUUSD expenses, which is $56,808,338. Then you remove the local revenues, and that gets you to your education spending. And that's the number that they will use for the formula, which then, and I believe the next page tells the formula. And then you've got your long-term weighted average daily membership. Now, what is that? It's the formula. The state looks at the children that we have, and we have, I think, 2,200 total, might be 2,400, somewhere around there. But the state looks at our formula based on socioeconomics and gives a weighted number, and that's what that long-term weighted average daily membership is. So our number, although it's somewhere around 2,200, 2,400, according to the state, when it did its snapshot, it said we have 3,703. It's the way that they did their formula in the state of Vermont. It's, again, extremely confusing. We need people in the legislature that are going to make this a lot less complicated. But they assigned our weighted number 3,703.48. And then there's the education spending, which is the amount that goes into the formula, and we've got our CLAs. Like I said, that's what the common level of assessment is, and we've got the homestead rate. So moving on. Total expenses, these are the general fund expenses plus any grant funded. As I said, general fund expenses, 53 million. This was from last year, the information. Then we've got general grant revenue, general fund revenue. We've got the general fund revenues of $12 million. Those revenues are, things like rent that we receive for Central Vermont Career Center, and then of course we've got some grants that are in there, and then we've got the $3.5 million worth of grant fund revenues. Then we've got the education spending, expenses, revenues. This is an amount education fund must support. So again, that's that lower number that we take our expenses, or our general budget, minus the expenses, and that's what our education spending is. That's how your taxes are based. And that was going up 3% if I go back to the original slide. Yeah, 3.09. All right. So one of the confusing things that we had this year was Act 127. Act 127 was the legislature's way of trying to fix education spending in the state of Vermont. All they did was move around the cups. And then they had to do another piece of legislation to try to fix that. It was signed into law in 2022. The law included changes to weighting structure implemented under Act 60 in 1997. The study determined that the formula used for determining the cost for education students was outdated and did not reflect true cost. This act also was the one that had the 5% cap, right? And that was moved by the next piece of legislation. Again, we need people in the legislature that know what they're talking about for education spending. Anyway, going on. The education spending by total expenditures. This is how they get our long-term weighted average daily membership number. They take that student count that is made up of the weighting system that they have for socioeconomics. And again, ours was 3703.48. They divide the education spending by that number, which gets us to that $11,036. This is our per pupil spending. And I've had multiple conversations about per pupil spending and the difference between per pupil spending and average spending per pupil. Obviously, average spending per pupil in the BUUSD is not $11,036, but this is the standard number that's used throughout the state of Vermont, the long-term weighted average daily membership at this moment. It wasn't used last year because of Act 127. But that's the number. When you look at that number, it's one of the lower numbers in the state of Vermont. So and it says here the state average is 13,242, right? And that plays into our socioeconomic circumstances. We have a higher student count because of our socioeconomics. So Act 127 changed the weighting factors. Factors affecting BUSD students are Barre's pupil counts for students who are from economically deprived backgrounds increased considerably this year because of Medicaid data can now be used to directly certify students for free and reduced priced meals. So there again, the formula was changed, and we're using Medicaid data regarding that socioeconomic issue. We're using that to pull those numbers for that part of the formula. Barre doesn't qualify for sparsity weights, and Barre doesn't qualify for small school status. Barre has 18 ELL students who were reported in our ADM. Barre qualifies for $50,000 grant as well. People will ask me what ELL students are, and I knew that 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember what it is right now off the top of my head. I want to say that this was the extra higher intensity needs, but I might be incorrect on that, and I apologize to anybody that's watching. You can certainly go and look that up by asking the superintendent. Right, so the impact in the numbers, we've got, and this is the equalized pupil that I was talking about, and how the weighted long-term average daily membership is different. You can see there that last year it was 2,205, and this year, because of the formula, it's 3,703. All right, so as stated, education spending, divide the long-term weighted average daily membership by the property yield, you get the 1.116. Act 27 discount brings it down to 1.086. So that's your tax rate before CLA. Then when you add in CLA, the common level of, appraisal, I've been saying assessment. Appraisal, my mistake. This again is the method of the Vermont legislature in its infinite wisdom said that, this is a way that we can, factor in the increases and decreases. So English language learner, my mistake, thank you. I don't know who said that. Let me just go back up there. Raylene did, thank you. I just can't remember things. So, and I appreciate that, thank you. You divide the equalized rate by CLA. So anyway, it gets to, for the CLAs for Barre City is 1.417, and then for the CLA for Barre Town is 1.249. Homestead tax rate. The tax rates are applied per $100 of property evaluation. So for Barre City, an increase of 1 cent. Barre Town, it's 3 cents. So what is, and we'll get to the slide, so I'll just wait. And this is just going over how it's calculated. So let's get to this slide, because this is the nitty-gritty of the education spending and taxes. How is it impacting me, right? If you live, and I don't know very many homes that are in Barre City or Barre Town that are just $100,000. I think probably the average home in Barre City is between like 150 and maybe 200. So we'll just go with the 200 value. As you see here, a home valued at $200,000, the education spending for Barre City will increase your taxes. The way that this budget is, the taxes will increase $20 a year. 1 year's worth. So that will be broken up quarterly. So 20 divided by 4 equals $5. Your tax bill will go up $5 for the education spending. That's what that is. And that does not take into account your homestead rebates or if you're a veteran, you get a rebate there as well. So it could easily be less than that amount that I just quoted. In Barrytown, it's a little bit more. Um, Full disclosure on that, it's going to be $70. So for a $200,000 house, you're looking at a $70 increase annually. Um, and you break that up, and well, me breaking that up off the top of my head for right now, so 35 divided by 2, so $17, somewhere around there. $17 is about what you're looking at quarterly. Uh, it's I'm not saying that it's nothing. What I am saying is that it's not the 14% that we hear about from all the news publications. It's not an extreme amount. I know people in other communities that got like $2,000 increase in their taxes. That's what they told me. I was surprised. Granted, their assessed values were much higher, right? But still, I mean, it was a lot of money for them, and I understand that. But in Barre City, you're looking at a $200,000 house, $20. And for Barrytown, it's $70, and you divide that by 4, and you get what you'll pay quarterly. So this is a summary of 1750. Thank you, Raylene. My brain does not work that well. Uh, just what it is. Our total proposed expenses is $56,808,338. That's the number that you're going to see on the ballot if you go in on Tuesday. If you haven't voted yet, please go and vote at the polls. You can call the clerk's office. Let's say if you sent your ballot in on Thursday or Friday, you can call the clerk's office and ask them if they received your ballot. And if you're concerned about whether or not your ballot made it there, call your clerk's office and they'll be able to tell you. And I'll ask, since Raylene's watching, if you don't mind, could you please post the phone numbers to the clerk's office for both Barre City and Barrytown? So our long-term weighted number per pupil spending is $11,036. The change in the general fund, remember that's not the increase in our taxes. The change in the general fund is 7.4. We started off at almost 12% of an increase. We're bringing it down we're down to 7.4 right now. I want to state that there's been significant conversation over, how far we should go. And the superintendent, Joanne Canning, has been doing her job for 40 years. And she has stated that this is a budget she can work with. And she is concerned that if we go any further, that would be cuts into that would impact students. And the one thing that we as a community can all agree on is that we don't want to impact negatively our students, right? We want to be a positive impact for our students. And when she said that, we hired her for her experience and her knowledge. Her 40 years of experience said, we go further, we will negatively impact students. And again, we want a lower budget. We can talk about that. I don't mind talking about that over the next year. And I can tell you, the only way that we're really going to have a significant impact on education spending in Barre City and Barrytown, and quite frankly, in the state of Vermont, is by doing the thing that we don't want to do, which is give up some of our local control. In Barre City, we could see significant changes just by actually merging our schools. And hold up, before people say, well, we did merge. We didn't. We just got rid of like three school boards. We combined our school boards. Everything is the same except for we have less school board meetings. The superintendent doesn't have to go to a Spalding High School school board meeting, a Barre City school board meeting, a Barre Town school board meeting, and a supervisory union school board meeting. The superintendent just goes to one. The actual changes have to take a little bit more work. Those are where we start merging our children. That being said, the difference between FY24 and FY25 budget, as I stated before, is 1% for Barre City, and for Barre Town, it's 3%. And that, again, has to do with that CLA dropping significantly. Now, this is a comparison of other districts where they stand on the long-term weighted daily membership and, long-term daily membership in the tax rate is also down there. So if you look, Barre City is on the lower end. You've got high end of Harwood Unified Union, which is pretty tough there. I think of Montpelier, Roxbury. They closed schools to make their budget lower. I want people to think about that, right? As we complain about our expenses, Montpelier merged. They closed a school in Roxbury and are busing those kids to a different location. They actually made a change that, and I don't think we can close a school in Barre City. We can't, right? Like, I don't think we can do that. There's not enough room to do that, and I would never support that. The way it's set up, we would have to have a significant decrease. But they made a hard decision to lower their costs. All right, so property tax credit assists many Vermont homeowners. The maximum credit is $5,600 for state education property tax and $2,400 for the municipal property tax portion. You can go to the property tax calculator, which I am going to post in the chat. Maybe I won't. Oh, I'm freezing I've been having some issues with my PDF viewer here. So you can go to that calculator. Your property qualifies. You have to file a homestead declaration for the current year's grand list. You were domiciled in Vermont for an entire taxable year. You were not claimed as an independent. All right, so let's copy this link. All right, well, let's see if I can copy it. Good golly. Folks, we're just like going crazy here. All right, so I'm gonna post that calculator right in the links. There you go. So your eligibility. Your property qualifies as a homestead. You have filed a homestead declaration for the current year's grand list. You were domiciled in Vermont for an entire taxable year. You were not claimed as a dependent of another taxpayer. You owned and occupied the property as your homestead as of April 1st. If you meet these requirements, Except that your homestead is leased to a tenant as of April 1st. You may still claim it as a homestead if not leased for more than 182 days in the claim year. You meet the household income criteria. So that is something that you would have to go to the state of Vermont for. Tax rates without a passed budget. Currently, your tax bill that you got was significantly lower because we're currently being taxed on a $1 adjusted for CLA. So we are, you will see a bump in your next tax bill because of the fact that you have to pay the back taxes. This is one of the problems with not passing a budget so late in the time frame. So you will see you'll be paying the extra amount. Sorry, it's unfortunate, but you have to pay the back taxes. The tax rates will be released June 30th, which obviously that had passed. True-up education taxes will occur upon the passage of the budget and after the reconsideration period. What's the reconsideration period? That's 30 days. Anytime a budget passes or fails, the community has 30 days to undo it. I think that happened in one of the local communities that it passed, and then they went back to revote it, if I recall. Somebody can check me on that. I don't know if that's, I could swear I heard that. Maybe it was something about ATVs. So true up of taxes, where taxpayers will see an increase in the bills when the revised bills are sent out. Thank you for spending time to learn more about our budget, the BUUSD budget. I want to tell folks, Phil Scott was asked about the budget, and he said that he would support our budget. Tom Lozon, these are people that have a reputation in our community. Phil Scott has talked about the education spending. He's concerned about education spending in the state of Vermont, and he knows that we have a problem, right? We have a problem. Everybody will admit, well, I think everybody would admit that we have a problem in education spending in the state of Vermont. How we fix it, that's where we get into, the question of our local control. We have, and I'm gonna mess this up, I wanna say we have 60 plus districts in the state of Vermont. I think my friend in North Carolina, he is he works for a school district down there, and it's a county-wide thing. We have an expensive model, and we have to change our model if we want to lower the expenses. But you can't just do that at budget time. You have to do that over the year, and to make significant changes by saying that certain departments are not needed for this budget cycle. You don't do that on municipal governance. At least I've never done that. And you've got to make those changes throughout the year. And I think that we can, and I'm hopeful that we can. I think that you need people in office that are going to move that forward, those changes. But anyway, so again, I just felt that it was extremely important for me to come down here to go through the budget, pitch the budget to people, and ask people to vote for the budget. I'm doing this as a citizen of Barre City, as a person that is concerned about our expenses in Barre City. I fully acknowledge, a couple years ago I was lambasted for asking for a a zero budget on the municipal side. And, you know, it's, I get, I get it. You know, we're tapped out. You see the posts on Facebook about business owners that just don't have the money. And this is a problem in the state of Vermont, you know, where we're raising DMV fees 20% when they didn't even ask for us to do it. You know, it's expensive in Vermont in general. That's not something that's going to be fixed with this budget. That's something that's going to be fixed by electing different people into the state offices. Just frankly, that's the case. You know, this budget is a budget, again, that our superintendent has stated she can work with, and she feels that any additional reductions will impact students. And that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. You know, do we want to lower and have those impacts? And if we do fail the budget, will you not like those impacts and then fail it again? And I think we're at that spot where this is a doable budget. And again, I understand the difficulties that people have financially, and if you can't afford $1, you can't afford 10, right? And I'm sorry. It's tough, and I would never say that it's not. Individual experiences are, I'm sorry, you know, but my position as the board chair is to support this budget. And as a citizen in our community, I support this budget. And I'm asking you as a listener to support this budget. And if you don't, then that's fine. I understand. You know, it doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you, you know, defund the schools, and it's, you know, it's, I get it. But I plead with you to consider voting for the budget. Look at the numbers, not the rhetoric that you see on Facebook, not just look at what we have. Go to the BUUSD.org and look at the budget information and make a decision. It's my hope that your decision will be the same as mine. But if it's not, that's okay. Doesn't mean that, you know, there's a issue with us. It just means we have a difference in opinion on it. And I really hope that you consider voting for it. I plan to be up at the polls on Tuesday. I'm going to be there with obviously as a candidate, letting folks know that I'm running for state rep for Barre City. And I will be there to try to answer any questions that I can about this budget. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to answer it. I'm not a budget person. You know, I look at what I feel I can sell to my community. I couldn't sell the first budget. This budget I can sell. And I feel that I can support this budget wholeheartedly. I don't have a problem going into the ballot box and voting yes. I wasn't going to say it, Raylene, but she says donuts and apple cider will be there, and probably some apples along with a sign that says vote yes. Yeah, thank you for watching, and you know, share this with folks, and let's go there the 17th and vote, and I hope you vote yes. All right. Have a great night, folks.